Welcome back to the show. I don't know if you knew this, but June is Migraine Awareness Month. Now, this is a disabling brain disease that is often misdiagnosed, misunderstood, and heavily stigmatized.
Our next guest is hoping to help change all that. She's a headache neurologist and the director of the headache program at the University of Toronto. Please welcome Dr. Christine Lui to the show. Hello.
Thank you. All right, doctor, let's go through the basics. For people who don't know, what is migraine?
So for centuries, migraine was thought of as just a headache, and it was used as an excuse to get out of, social events and things. But there's been an explosion in the science over the last couple of decades that have really definitively shown that migraine is a brain disease. One feature of this brain disease is a headache, and it's a disabling headache, but there are many other associated features. So people are bothered by lights and sound, people have trouble finding their words, people feel dizzy, off balance, they really feel unwell, they're very disabled.
Okay, so how does migraine differ from other headaches like dehydration or even tension headaches?
So tension headaches, probably the most common headache that people experience worldwide, but it is rarely disabling. So people don't go to the doctor for help. Migraine, on the other hand, is very disabling. And migraine can be triggered by dehydration, a change in the weather, a woman's menstrual cycle. But also the science is teaching us that it's part of the prodrome or the pre-headache phase that you are more vulnerable to the hormonal change, or you're more vulnerable to that weather change. It's part of the migraine process.
So at least in my life, it seems like there is a migraine epidemic. Everybody I know is talking about how they're experiencing migraine or migraine attacks. I feel like in Vancouver, one of the very popular conversations online is how everyone is having a migraine, or experiencing migraine attacks. So is this true? Are there more people actually having this, or does it just seem that way?
We don't think so. It's because the word is getting out. So organizations like Migraine Canada or the Canadian Headache Society, these are really getting the word out to people, because for the longest time, at least 50% of people who were suffering with migraine never knew they had migraine. They thought they had a bad headache. They thought they had a weather headache, a menstrual headache. So we've put a huge amount of effort in Canada and the United States toward educating people and advocating for people with migraine. So it looks like there's more people with migraine. They've always been there. There are more than 1 billion people in the world with migraine.
Okay, and I just want to jump in. Part of that is the language, because you've noticed the way we've been talking. It's migraine.
Migraine. We no longer call it migraines because it is a brain disease. People have migraine attacks.
Got it.
Okay, so we're learning a lot. I used to get terrible migraine attacks, and I, at the time, thought, it's got to be connected to my menstrual cycle because it was always right before my period. Are there early signs that say, okay, heads up, you've got a migraine attack coming?
Yeah, and we really want patients to start paying attention to this. So we call that the prodrome, the pre-headache phase. So if you know that you always get a migraine attack around your menstrual cycle, keep that in mind and say to yourself, I'm yawning excessively, I'm craving sweets, the light's bothering me, the sound's bothering me. I don't have a headache yet, but that's the prodromal phase, because we're now learning from some of these new medications that are now available. If you treat in the prodrome phase, you have a very good chance of stopping the migraine attack altogether, or at least making it much less disabling.
Wow.
My husband suffers from migraine attacks. I don't. Are certain people more prone to it than others?
Yeah, 3 times as many women as men do get a migraine attack. And then we think that's driven by the hormone estrogen, but it's not just the estrogen. The estrogen plays a role because it impacts other neuroinflammatory chemicals that we all have inside of us.
Fascinating. You were saying this off the top, but we're trying to destigmatize migraine. So where do you think this comes from? And why do you think for so long people weren't taking it, quote unquote, seriously?
For the longest time. It's really only been recent years because it was thought of as just a headache. Nobody understood that there were all these other brain changes that happened. And as I mentioned, we've known about migraine since the Egyptian era. There are hieroglyphics depicting a migraine attack. So it's been around a long time, but it was always used as an excuse. I have a headache, I can't do that.
Yeah.
So we're educating people about that, helping them understand it's a brain disease, incredibly disabling without the right treatment.
So if there's bosses watching, companies watching, what can they do to help their workers then?
we're beginning to institute workplace programs because you can make very simple changes in the workplace that really help someone who's living with migraine. Just understanding that they're not coming to work because they're out at the shopping mall. They're not coming to work because they're at home in bed feeling absolutely miserable. So education is key, making small accommodation changes. And we're actually going into very large corporations now, teaching everyone about migraine. And from the company standpoint, they see a huge benefit in their bottom line because migraine is the leading cause of workplace disability in age 50 and under.
Wow.
So not everyone is aware of the treatment options for migraine. So what are some of the ones that are available?
So we always work with the beginning, the lifestyle. If you don't have a good foundation of lifestyle change, being well hydrated, not having too much caffeine, sleeping well, looking after yourself, mindfulness, walking, no medication is going to have the best effect that it can. But in the last 4 to 5 years, there's been a huge explosion of migraine-targeted therapy. So people who have migraine who are listening or here, they were always told, oh, take this blood pressure pill, take this anti-seizure medicine, and we'll help you get better. But now we have specific medications, injectables and oral pills that are directed at migraine, and they treat migraine both on a preventative basis and what we call an acute basis. You're in the middle of the attack, how do you turn it off?
Here's another one, Botox.
Yes.
For treating migraine.
So Botox has been around for a long time.
I mean, do you look great after, or has nothing to do with it?
You don't really have the same cosmetic change because it's not a cosmetic injection, and that's an important factor.
You don't get it in your face, right?
You do get some injections in your face, but it's important that people who are thinking about getting Botox for chronic migraine, it's only approved for people that have 15 days a month or more with migraine. That's a lot of migraine burden. That they go to a specialist who's been trained in the administration of Botox for headache because it is different than a cosmetic injection, but it can be very effective.
It can be. Dr. Lui, I love all of this and more. I think you've really enlightened us in this world, so thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Wow. All right, a lot of people are going to be helped with this. We'll be back right after this break.
Thanks for watching. We've got lots more discussion and debates on everything from food and fashion to pop culture and current events. Don't forget to click like and subscribe.